Hey everyone, we're getting near the end of October and we have Halloween coming up, and I thought it might be fun to do a little quick project, and you can do it just to try out, effects of color and all that stuff, or you can just make it as a card. So I'm going to show a couple ways. I've done a couple of these different ones. This is a cute one that I made using, I went ahead and started using some of our previous lesson on using a stencil. And he's like a happy pumpkin, I think, even though there's a witch back there. This one I was thinking of how you could indicate movement or something, even though it's something like a pumpkin. So I was thinking this guy's a spooky ghost pumpkin. And this guy's okay. He's just, he's kind of in a strange environment. He's glowing a little bit. If this was darker, he'd probably glow a little bit more. And here I used our straw technique, where we blew through a straw to get different effects. Now I can send you links to the straw technique and the stencil technique. But if you've had some painting experience, you can do this without doing the stencils. For instance, I didn't really use it on these two. So if you've had some painting background, try it without the stencil. So anyway, so back to our stencils. We got some cardstock or heavy card paper, and they sell it at Michael's in scrapbooking. But if you get any kind of ads in your mailbox, and one's, it's heavier paper and one side's a little has some plain background on it, you can use that. And basically we do is we trace around the object to get our nice round shape. Now, as we know, pumpkins aren't perfectly round, but you can start out that way because we're doing just a fun little caricature. Now the moon will probably look more round, so I'm going to trace around a nice moon. And then we just cut out these shapes, and then we end up with either, and you try to do it better than I did those. So you only bring in one cut from the outside so that you can tape it back. So we're going to use both of these two things as stencils. So you're going to use this one and then this one, or mostly this one, and then this one for the pumpkin. So this one's already done. So the way I created this sort of brighter, happy pumpkin is I went in and got some bright yellow, and directly out of my palette, lemon yellow, or cadmium lemon. Okay, I've taken my stencil and I've traced my pumpkin. Now, I probably could have put it lower here, but I might show some grasses coming up. And then I used one of the cutouts of these shapes. Here I'm going to continue with our pumpkin project. Now, there's a couple ways I did these, and I want to try to do this one again. And you can start these in different ways. Here I just covered the whole sheet in yellow, and I'm going to work around that. Or you can do yellow and then do the orange around the pumpkin face. So I outlined a circle, just to make it simpler. I know pumpkins aren't all circles, so if you want to draw an oval, that's up to you. So to do that, make it easier for myself, I just used this and I traced around it. Then I just drew in a little face. So any face you do is up to you. You know, that's the fun of it. You can do different expressions. You can make it friendly or scary or whatever. So now I'm going to mix up an orange. I'm just going to show you how I do that, because here I'm starting out with some yellow and adding water to it. So this yellow was right from my tube. Or you could do it from your palette. If your yellow, it's pretty pure, but it's hard to keep yellow clean in your palette. Then I'm going to take some, that's lemon yellow. I'm going to take some alizarin crimson. Look how pretty that is. And I'm going to start mixing that in, but I'm going to see how this is a different mixture, a different shade of orange in this. I'm going to leave that like this. I'm going to go deeper on this side with more red. So I get all these different shades of orange going up to yellow. So when I have all these here, then I can pick from them when I'm painting my face, so they get a variety. So I'm going to start out with a more yellow than red orange, and I'm just going to start painting with a fairly, you know, this is wet on dry. That's fairly light. And I don't necessarily want everything to look an even shade of orange. So as I go in, I'm still just picking up from my palette. I don't want to go back to my water and add more water to my brush, because it's going to make it bloom. Now I'm picking up some darker orange that I've already mixed. Now I'll make sure I have enough mixed that I can do this. I'm using a round brush, and you can see that the variation in orange I have here. So I've dried this with a hair dryer, or you could just let it dry. So next we're trying to get this, we want to have our little moon. So I'm using this cutout from the cardstock I did, and I just traced around a medicine bottle and then cut it out. So I could use this as a stencil. Now, I've tried this with different colors, and you need a really deep blue, and ultramarine blue is a good one to use, and I did have it on your list. And if you guess what can happen when I put ultramarine over yellow, when I use blue over yellow, it's going to get a bit of a green shade. So if you really compare this to this one, this has some green in it because I put yellow over the whole thing, like this sample. This one I did the pumpkin and then just painted blue around it. So let's see what happens. Now I want to use a flat brush, and I want to go around my moon first. Otherwise it gets too damp. And then it seeps under. Now there's way, if it seeps under, don't worry, there's ways to correct it. And in fact, it can look pretty interesting, and you can end up making the moon look smaller than your cutout, which is fine. like it's sitting on something. So for instance, I can lift a little bit of this up and get a texture down here. And you could even use your saran wrap and try to get a texture at the bottom. Plus, when I lift a little of that up, it's going to look like there's glow coming down around the bottom here from the pumpkin itself, from the jack-o'-lantern itself. I could add some yellow back in to get more of a green color down here. So it's still wet. I'm just putting some grasses, just doing some green on top. I'm trying not to destroy the shape of the pumpkin, but if I brush up, it looks like it's, sitting in the grass. Let me do some more up here. So now I'm sort of creating a background of like a landscape. This might be sitting in a meadow. You could have it, really speaking, just sort of look like it, have it up higher. It looks like it's just, hanging out there in space. So anything your imagination takes you to do these, you can look at stuff on the internet and you get ideas of different ways people have carved pumpkins. This is a little easier than getting a pumpkin out and actually carving it. So that's it for that. Now, when I take this off, the moon looks pretty good, but if it was too rough, I could just come in with the blue and just make the moon smaller. In fact, sometimes it looks better if you do a little bit of that. It makes it look the moon is kind of, just got that feeling like it's glowing. And then I have a damp brush. I can go across. It looks like there's, well, that didn't work. I get more moisture and it looks like there's clouds coming over the moon. That kind of thing. See, now I messed it up, but I'm not worried. I'm just going to keep going around till it looks right. So, I'm trying to think of what's going to make our pumpkin complete. If you look at photographs of pumpkins, of jack-o'-lanterns rather, and there's a good one, an ad from Michaels that shows how much, when you look through, and if it's a real pumpkin that you've carved, you can see almost a red glow shining through that pumpkin here to give that depth. So, so I'm going to try that here. Now I'm using some alizarin prism and test it just a little bit. It's a dark enough color, so I could go with a different red. I'm going to try this one. I'm using a flat brush to get it even. So light would be, to make it more realistic, you can give a depth just on one side. If both sides it looks like it's outlined, it'll actually flatten it. So it gets a little bit of a glow here because of that. And this kind of thing. You could use a round brush too. For this, it's a little more control. Use a flat brush. I might do some more underneath so you have that darker red. It makes it stand out. Okay, one last finishing touch to this little piece, which can be a card. I want to do that little witch, or you could do your straw technique to get some branches coming across. But I'm going to try this sort of witch idea, and you can try and get a reference picture, but I know witches have, I mixed ultramarine and burnt sienna together to get a black color. And this is hard to do while I'm talking, but I think all you need is a suggestion, and people will get what it is. Just sort of an outline. So people do that's a witch. Now I like this other one better, but that's all right. This one's going this way. So there's your little Halloween card.